Infantry. The infantry is the core combat arm of the Australian Army. Its primary role is to close with and defeat the enemy on land, using fire and movement, and to seize, hold, or control ground. Infantry soldiers operate primarily on foot, but they are also trained to fight from and alongside vehicles, aircraft, and supporting arms. Australian infantry is organized into battalions, most of which belong to the Royal Australian Regiment. These battalions are configured as light, motorized, or mechanized infantry, depending on their equipment and operational role. Light infantry focuses on dismounted combat and is optimized for jungle, urban, and mountainous terrain. Motorized infantry uses protected vehicles for mobility, but fights mainly on foot. Mechanized infantry operates closely with armored vehicles, allowing infantry to fight while mounted or rapidly dismount under protection. Infantry soldiers are trained in small unit tactics, marksmanship, fieldcraft, camouflage, navigation, and close combat. At the section and platoon level, infantry units emphasize teamwork, discipline, and rapid decision-making. They are designed to operate independently for extended periods, often in austere environments with limited support. In combined arms operations, the infantry works closely with armor, artillery, engineers, aviation, and air power. While other branches provide mobility, firepower, or support, the infantry is the branch that physically occupies terrain and makes decisive contact with the enemy. This makes it central to both conventional warfare and modern operations, such as peacekeeping, counterinsurgency, and stability missions. While infantry secures ground on foot, modern warfare also requires protected firepower and rapid maneuver. That role is carried out by the Army's armored forces. The Royal Australian Armoured Corps is responsible for armored warfare, cavalry operations, and battlefield reconnaissance within the Australian Army. Its role is to provide protected mobility, shock action, and situational awareness to ground forces, enabling commanders to find, fix, and defeat enemy forces. The Corps operates the Army's main battle tanks, armored fighting vehicles, and reconnaissance platforms. Armored units are designed to deliver decisive firepower while remaining protected against small arms, artillery fragments, and other battlefield threats. Cavalry and reconnaissance elements focus on gathering intelligence through observation and contact, identifying enemy positions, and screening friendly forces during maneuver. RAAC units are structured into armored regiments, cavalry regiments, and reconnaissance squadrons. Armored regiments center on tank operations, providing direct fire support to infantry and breaking through enemy defenses. Cavalry and reconnaissance units operate ahead of the main force, using speed, sensors, and firepower to shape the battlefield before larger formations engage. Personnel in the Royal Australian Armoured Corps are trained in vehicle crew drills, gunnery, navigation, communications, and combined arms tactics. Crew coordination is critical, as modern armored warfare relies on seamless cooperation between commanders, gunners, drivers, and supporting elements. The Corps is designed to operate as part of a wider combined arms team, integrating closely with infantry, artillery, engineers, and aviation. Direct combat alone is not enough to dominate the battlefield. To influence enemy forces at long range and beyond direct sight, the Army relies on its artillery arm, Royal Australian Artillery. The Royal Australian Artillery provides indirect fire support to the Australian Army, delivering long-range firepower to destroy, suppress, or neutralize enemy forces. Its purpose is to influence the battlefield beyond the direct line of sight of frontline troops, allowing commanders to shape engagements before close combat occurs. Artillery units operate a range of weapon systems, including towed and self-propelled guns, mortars, and air defense systems. Field artillery focuses on surface-to-surface fires, using high-explosive smoke and illumination rounds to support infantry and armored maneuver. These fires are coordinated to strike enemy positions, disrupt movement, or deny key terrain. Air defense artillery protects friendly forces from aerial threats such as aircraft, helicopters, and unmanned systems. A critical component of the Royal Australian Artillery is target acquisition. This includes forward observers embedded with combat units, radar systems that detect incoming enemy fire, and sensor teams that locate targets at long range. Forward observers call for and adjust artillery fire, ensuring accuracy and minimizing the risk to friendly forces. Artillery soldiers are trained in gunnery, fire control, surveying, communications, and fire support coordination. Modern artillery operations rely heavily on digital command and control systems that link observers, guns, and higher headquarters in real time. Within combined arms operations, artillery provides the firepower that enables maneuver forces to advance, defend, or disengage under controlled conditions. Firepower and maneuver on the ground are greatly enhanced when forces can operate vertically. This is where Army Aviation extends the reach of land forces. Australian Army Aviation is responsible for providing aviation support to land forces, using helicopters to deliver mobility, firepower, reconnaissance, and sustainment across the battlefield. Its role is to extend the reach of ground commanders by operating above terrain obstacles and rapidly moving forces where ground movement would be slow or impossible. Army Aviation operates a fleet of rotary wing aircraft, including attack, reconnaissance, and lift helicopters. Attack and reconnaissance helicopters are used to identify enemy forces, provide armed overwatch, and engage armored or fortified targets. These aircraft work closely with ground units, relaying real-time information and delivering precision fires in support of maneuver operations. Aviation lift helicopters are used to transport troops, vehicles, and supplies. They enable air assault operations, where infantry can be inserted directly into key terrain, bypassing enemy defenses. Aviation units also conduct casualty evacuation, command and control lift, and logistical resupply, often under hostile or high-risk conditions. Personnel in Australian Army Aviation include pilots, aircrew, maintainers, and aviation support specialists. Pilots are trained in low-level flying, night operations, and operating in complex threat environments. Ground crews ensure aircraft are maintained, armed, and ready to fly under demanding operational tempos. Army Aviation is fully integrated into combined arms operations, acting as a critical link between ground forces, intelligence, and fire support. Mobility, protection, and battlefield access do not happen by chance. They are deliberately created and denied through combat engineering capabilities. Royal Australian Engineers. The Royal Australian Engineers provides combat engineering support to the Australian Army, enabling forces to move, fight, and survive on the battlefield. Its core purpose is to shape the physical environment to favor friendly forces while restricting the movement and effectiveness of the enemy. Engineer units focus on three fundamental functions: mobility, counter-mobility, and survivability. Mobility tasks include breaching obstacles, clearing mines, constructing routes, and building bridges to allow friendly forces to advance. Counter-mobility involves creating obstacles such as minefields, demolitions, and barriers to slow, divert, or canalize enemy movement. Survivability tasks include building defensive positions, bunkers, protective structures, and field fortifications to reduce casualties from enemy fire. Beyond direct combat support, the Royal Australian Engineers also conduct construction and infrastructure tasks. These include building bases, airfields, roads, and water supply systems in deployed environments. Engineer units are often among the first forces to deploy and the last to leave, establishing essential infrastructure that enables sustained operations. Engineers are also responsible for specialist capabilities such as explosive ordnance disposal, search operations, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear support. Personnel are trained in demolitions, heavy equipment operation, surveying, and combat engineering tactics. In combined arms operations, engineers operate alongside infantry and armor, directly enabling maneuver and ensuring forces can operate effectively in complex and contested terrain. None of these combat and support elements can function without coordination. That coordination depends entirely on reliable communication systems. Royal Australian Corps of Signals. The Royal Australian Corps of Signals is responsible for providing communications and information systems across the Australian Army. Its role is to ensure commanders can command and control forces by reliably transmitting voice, data, and digital information across the battlefield, from the lowest tactical level to strategic headquarters. Signals units establish and maintain communication networks that link soldiers, vehicles, headquarters, and supporting arms. These networks include radio systems, satellite communications, data links, and battlefield management systems. In combat operations, Signals personnel deploy communications rapidly under pressure, often in austere or hostile environments, to keep units connected while on the move. A key function of the Corps is command and control support. Signals enable orders to be issued, intelligence to be shared, and fires to be coordinated in real time. Without effective communications, modern combined arms operations cannot function. Signals units also support network security, ensuring communications are protected against interception, disruption, or cyber attack. Personnel in the Royal Australian Corps of Signals are trained in radio operation, networking, satellite systems, encryption, and electronic systems management. Many soldiers specialize in areas such as network engineering, information systems, or electronic warfare support. In operations, signals elements are embedded at every level of the Army, making the Corps a foundational enabler of all other branches. Sustaining combat power requires more than fighting units alone. Keeping forces supplied, equipped, and operational depends on a dedicated sustainment system. Logistics and maintenance are responsible for sustaining the Australian Army in combat, training, and deployment. This function ensures that personnel, equipment, weapons, vehicles, and supplies are delivered, maintained, and kept operational for the duration of operations. Without this system, combat forces rapidly lose effectiveness regardless of their training or firepower. The Royal Australian Army Service Corps provides transport and supply distribution. Its role is to move personnel, food, fuel, ammunition, and equipment across the battlefield and between bases. Service Corps units manage convoys, bulk fuel operations, and sustainment routes, often operating in contested environments to ensure frontline units remain supplied. The Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps manages weapons, ammunition, and general military stores. This includes storage, accounting, quality control, and issue of equipment ranging from small arms and body armor to specialized technical systems. Ordnance personnel ensure that units receive the correct equipment in serviceable condition and that ammunition is handled safely and accurately throughout its life cycle. The Royal Australian Electrical and Mechanical Engineers is responsible for keeping Army equipment operational. This includes maintenance and repair of vehicles, weapons, communication systems, and electronic equipment. RAEME conducts routine servicing, fault diagnosis, battlefield repair, and vehicle recovery, ensuring damaged or disabled equipment can be returned to service as quickly as possible. Together, these three corps form the Army's sustainment backbone. They enable combat units to deploy, maneuver, and fight continuously by ensuring that supplies flow, equipment functions, and losses are repaired or replaced. While they do not usually engage in direct combat, their contribution directly determines whether operations succeed or fail. Military readiness is not only determined by equipment and logistics, but by the health and resilience of the force itself. Medical and health services are responsible for preserving the physical and mental readiness of Australian Army personnel. This function ensures soldiers are fit to deploy, survive injury or illness, and maintain performance under the physical and psychological stresses of military service. The Royal Australian Army Medical Corps provides medical care across the full spectrum of operations. This includes frontline trauma care by combat medics, casualty evacuation, and treatment at progressively higher levels of medical facilities. Medical personnel focus on life-saving treatment, injury management, and returning soldiers to duty when possible. The Corps also plays a major role in preventive medicine, including disease control, hygiene monitoring, and environmental health. The Royal Australian Army Dental Corps maintains the oral health and dental readiness of Army personnel. Dental issues are a common cause of non-deployability, particularly on long or remote operations. The Dental Corps provides routine care, emergency treatment, and preventive dentistry to ensure soldiers meet deployment health standards and avoid avoidable medical evacuations. The Royal Australian Army Psychology Corps supports mental health, resilience, and human performance. Psychologists provide assessment and treatment for psychological injuries, advise commanders on stress, morale, and leadership, and support selection and training for high-demand roles. Their work reduces psychological attrition and helps personnel remain effective under sustained operational pressure. Together, these three corps ensure the Army remains medically fit, mentally resilient, and operationally ready. Their combined efforts directly affect survivability, deployability, and long-term force effectiveness across all operations. Decisions on the battlefield depend on understanding the enemy and the environment. That understanding is produced through structured intelligence processes. The Royal Australian Army Intelligence Corps is responsible for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence to support Australian Army operations. Its role is to provide commanders with an accurate understanding of the enemy, terrain, and operational environment, so decisions can be made based on evidence rather than assumption. Intelligence Corps personnel work across the full intelligence cycle. This begins with collection, using sources such as reconnaissance patrols, surveillance systems, open-source information, and technical sensors. Collected information is then processed and analyzed to identify enemy capabilities, intentions, and vulnerabilities. The final product is intelligence that supports planning, targeting, and force protection. The Corps supports operations at tactical, operational, and strategic levels. At the tactical level, intelligence teams support combat units with real-time assessments of enemy positions and threats. At higher levels, intelligence staffs contribute to campaign planning, long-term assessments, and coordination with joint and allied intelligence organizations. Personnel in the Royal Australian Army Intelligence Corps are trained in analysis, briefing, geospatial intelligence, counterintelligence support, and information management. Accuracy, objectivity, and timeliness are critical, as intelligence directly influences operational outcomes. Within combined arms operations, the Intelligence Corps underpins maneuver, fires, and protection by ensuring commanders understand the battlefield before and during combat. That covers the structure and roles of every branch within the Australian Army. If you want to understand how Australia's elite units operate beyond the conventional force, watch every Australian Special Operations Force explained in detail, where the focus shifts from Army-wide structure to special operations capabilities.